So those were the four issues that I spoke to your pastor Chaitanya and Janet and to the worship team. Apart from them, there is not even a single person whom we went and gossiped about it or talked about it. If our intention was that, we wouldn't have called Chaitanya and Janet to our home to discuss it. We would have directly gone and spread all these issues to everybody else. That's not the kind of people we are, and that's not the way our parents brought us up. We will never do that. We don't involve in gossiping. Right? Believe it or not. And but what your pastor claims is that I kind of badmouthed about him to the worship team, and the worship team, in fact, is spreading about his personal habits, smoking to everybody else in the church. And your pastor also claimed to there's some folks in the church that Selvin is stepping off from this church. Along with him, the worship team is stepping off. All of them are going to Pastor Ashirwad's church because all this was driven by Pastor Ashirwad. Now I'm going to come to Pastor Ashirwad's story in the next video, but keep this in mind. That's what he told to all those volunteers. And who are these specific folks that he mentioned? They are called the Night Riders. Now, at least the Gachibowli plugin knows the Night Riders. To the church, there is a group called Night Riders in our church. It's a group of men who hang around in the nights. They just go for dinners and they spend time with each other. Now, your pastor told them that I badmouthed about them in the meeting, which is a lie. I never spoke anything about them. What I got to hear from one of the Night Rider members is that I made a comment that these group of men, they go around pubbing, boozing and smoking, which is all a lie. I never told this to anybody, and we would never talk about somebody. That's not our business at all. Now, these four issues are the ones that I spoke to the worship team member. As I mentioned in the previous team, there was a black sheep. Now, in all the videos, I never mention anybody's name, but I want to mention these people's name specifically here. Now, this couple from the worship team were the ones who spilled the beans out. Now, they are George and Eva. Now, George and Eva told me that Pastor Janet called her up when she got to know that we had a meeting, and she pestered them to tell the issues, and later on both of them went and spilled the beans. That is what they claim, and we never went back to ask what is the truth. We are fine with you telling to Pastor Chaitanya and Janet whatever we spoke, but what they are telling is also something which I want to bring it, is that George also mentioned that I spoke about the Night Riders badly. George and Eva betrayed the worship team. Both of you, George and Eva, you betrayed your team's trust. You backstabbed every member of the team. And knowing all these things, you were still being very quiet with me whenever I came to your institute. So both George and Pastor Chaitanya claims that I spoke bad. You can call up the worship team meeting. You can call the worship team members. You will know the truth. Now, I wanted to know, why would Pastor Chaitanya and George would do that? Now, your Pastor Chaitanya and Janet already plotted to take us out of the church because we have spoke hard truths, and George and Eva wanted to take up the worship team. I never knew that you wanted to head the worship team. You should have told me directly that you wanted to take up the worship team. So, church, here are two people. One very, very well planned to remove us from church. One wanted to make sure that that he will not build the the brand capstone that he has built, and the other one wants to take over the worship team. I want to tell something about George and Eva to you all. George and Eva, they never come for practices on time. They never come for sound check on time, and they doesn't take anybody's feedback. And keeping all this in mind, they even treated my daughter very badly in their institute personally. So both of them joined together and made a plot against us to remove us from church. So you have a pastor who does not take feedback. You have a worship team who does not take feedback, but now they have a grievances team. Who are the grievances members? Your Pastor Chaitanya and Janet. Now imagine, church, as a member of the leadership team, we speaking the church issues, they wanted to kill us from the church. What voice be yours when you bring up your feedback to them? They will not. I'm really surprised by how these two behaved with us. Both of them told lies about us to everybody in the church. Whomever George and Eva spoke to, whichever families they spoke to, the truth is, we never spoke anything bad about anybody. Whatever they told you is a lie. Whatever Chaitanya and Janet is telling about us to people is a lie. Be careful, church, and be mindful of whom you're following.